Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Jay Encarnacion, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we're excited to have Thomas Knoll, the CEO of 11. Thomas is a serial entrepreneur with multiple startups under his belt and now leading 11, a company launched in 2024 to revolutionize one-on-one meetings through async communication tools. He's also a leadership coach who's mentored over 1,200 founders through programs like Techstars. We'll explore his founding story, how 11 is tackling communication challenges for leaders, and his vision for scaling this early stage venture. So let's dive right in. Thomas, welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you, Jay. So glad to be here.
Absolutely. So glad to have you. So would really love to start at the very top for our listeners here, Thomas. Take us back to the beginning if you can. What specific problem in the leadership or communications landscape really inspired you to start 11?
Yeah, I uh when you were saying earlier that I'm a serial entrepreneur, I immediately thought of Airbnb. And like I think they're the only ones that like actually were serial
Yeah.
entrepreneurs. If you know their story of
Yeah.
selling Obama O's and Captain McCain's
Yeah.
or whatever, like
Yeah.
just to get to where they could
Yeah.
survive. Um, so I'm not that much of a serial entrepreneur, but yeah, this is the sixth at bat, I guess is the best way to
Yeah.
describe it. Um, all of the times before, I felt like I was trying to convince the world that I had this good idea and that I was an entrepreneur and that I was going to succeed, and they just needed to understand it and see it and put me on the cover of Newsweek. And like that was the feeling of those. This time, um, I feel dragged along by this company. um, the whole thing started because I've been an executive coach for almost 10 years now, and um, I noticed that even though all of my clients have, like we have these face-to-face calls, which is like a big part of it, but there's also 24/7 unlimited asynchronous messaging and support. Um, and still, we would start calls with 5, 10, sometimes 20 minutes of, so there's this thing going on and there's this thing happening. And then I kind of had this question and I was kind of wondering what to do about this. And I don't know which one of these is like most important. And what do you think? And should we, and which one? And, all this
Right.
stuff. And I'm just like, you could have sent this anytime. You could have sent hours of this anytime you wanted. Why are we starting our like synchronous time with this stuff? And so tried all kinds of stuff, all kinds of tools, like 14 different things to try to unlock that. None of them worked. Um, and so I built a prototype of a thing that I thought would maybe solve the problem, sent it out to them, asked if they would try it and if they would give me feedback. And the overwhelming response was, yeah, we can use this for coaching. How do I give this to the leaders in my company for their one on ones? I
Mm.
need them using this for that. And it surprised me. I felt like an idiot that, like, I didn't, see that or think about that or decide that this should be some product. Um, so I'm grateful that they pointed it out to me. So I DM'd 100 people on LinkedIn, like, how are your one-on-ones going? What do you use? How's that working? I have this thing. Would that sound useful? And 90% said they're not going as well as I want, or they're horrible. um, and yes, I would like to try that thing. Um, and I didn't believe them. I thought that was like nice a thing to say, but I didn't believe them. So I'm like, okay, here's a Stripe link. It's $11 a month. Do you really want it? And 53% paid for access to a thing that wasn't available yet. And so that's when I realized, I guess we have to pursue this.
I love it. I love it. Well, so walk us through. So I know that you just launched in 2024. So walk us through how Eleven's offer has evolved thus far from what you provide to who you serve. How's that changed since you first launched?
Yeah, the I guess I have two answers to that. One is it hasn't changed at all. It is a very simple idea. It is a very simple product. Um, like we don't have a whole bunch of core values in the company yet. The only one we do have is no. That's it. The whole core value is no. we
Yeah.
just we're going to default to no and then have to make a big case to turn additions and changes into a yes. Um, and so it hasn't changed at all. What has happened is, so this was July.
Mhm.
Um, June was when I sent out the prototype. July was whenever I incorporated. Um, what is that? 6, 7,
Eight. Yeah.
8. Where are we? I can't do math, right? Like we're
Yeah.
8 months into this thing.
Yeah.
Um, the like the day after the idea, a friend from Techstars, managing director of a program where I had been mentoring, was just like, "Hey, this is going to be our last cohort. Like, do we get to invest in something you do?"
Yeah.
And I had said no like 6 times in a row previously, and this time she called like right after this other stuff happened. I was like, I think there might be something. She's like, cool, we're in.
Love
And I was like,
it.
what do you mean? Like, I should come pitch? And she's like, no, like, we're in. Like, what's next? um, so we did Techstars in the fall, and that's when we did our private beta. And so we were focused on managers and direct reports at that point. And so ran our private beta with all those folks. The wild thing that happened then was when um, managers and direct reports were able to use this, they shifted to like the question became, can I invite my coach to this? Can I invite my therapist to this? Can I invite my spouse to this? Can I invite my financial planner to this? Once they had this space where they could ask questions knowing that it couldn't create a reaction,
Right.
but ask questions in a way that would hold time and space for the answer. They started looking for these other direct relationships in their life where it might apply. So that's been the biggest shift. Is this went from coach to client to managers and direct reports, and now it's like, oh, really, any relationship where I want to have an important conversation later. That's kind of becoming the I don't know, ICP, I guess, for the whole thing.
Beautiful. So, I mean, I know I'm very intrigued by what you're doing. It's clear as day that again, you definitely sound like a serial entrepreneur here, and you're just pushing out those ideas, and they're succeeding. And it's incredible to hear so far how much success you've seen in less than a year with 11. For my understanding, are you still doing coaching and training with individuals, and then 11 is kind of what you're doing to on the side, or is 11 really your main focus right now? You kind of put the coaching to the side.
Yeah, I completely understand the question.
Yeah.
I have a hard time, um, like to me, it sounds like, like so, like what's more important to you, like your heart or your lungs?
Right.
Which one are you spending more time with? Um, so for me, that's what the question sounds like. I have carved out space for the direct. Um, it's maybe it sounds like a weird word, but like intimate relationship of one on of coaching with people directly, right? And like I'm unwilling to ever let that space be taken by anything because it's so important and it directly informs everything that we're doing with the product. I feel like I would struggle to be effective at getting of developing the product and getting it to market if I wasn't um, in the game, right?
Absolutely.
Like this idea of like a player coach, kind of thing. It's like if
Yeah.
more like team captain than coach, right? It's like I need to
Yeah.
be in the game to feel useful at what I do. And so then the product isn't on the side of that or secondary to it because it has spun out directly from that work. And I have clients who are telling me like I need our leaders to be having these type of conversations and this to be enabled. Um, and so that is just this extension of the same thing that I'm trying to do with the coaching, with the community we've built around this idea of curiosity to transform our relationships. So like it to me, like these are all, organs of the same, organism.
Same body. Yeah, exactly. No, that absolutely makes sense, and I appreciate the clarity there. And the reason I ask is of course many of our listeners are founders and entrepreneurs, and
Mhm.
it fit right into your ICP. So would love to be able to, which is why I love having you on the podcast and why I love doing the podcast in general, which just really opens up so much opportunity for everyone and the listeners here. So definitely appreciate you elaborating on that for us. So as far as generating revenue for you, Thomas, I mean, I know Eleven's doing great so far. You do one-on-one coaching. What's working best for you? If our listeners want to come to you, what is your core offer? What can you provide them? And how is it structured for your clients?
Yeah. Like, do you want both answers right now, or are you taking them one at a time?
Yeah, whichever you can give both. Yeah. Yeah. For Thomas, if we got a listener who wants to come to Thomas and work with Thomas, what can they expect?
Yeah, I think so this is the other reason I really enjoy this is, I have I don't scale. I don't want to scale. I'm not trying to um, become like I never wanted to become the type of coach that just starts having like groups and then crowds and then like just go buy my book and because to me it is the interaction, the direct interaction that is the heart of the work. And so I have a small amount of space available, and that is, it rotates because if this is working well, people move on. They don't like have to stay there for the rest of their life. Um, yeah, so for that, that's yoursecondcall.com. Kind of has all the information, really about the spirit of there's 1,000 kinds of coaches to go choose from, and there's millions of coaches at this point, right? And so people have a lot of options. So hopefully that just helps them get a sense of like whether our interactions would be helpful and valuable. So I'd love that. At this point, I'm mostly working with teams, and so not even like less and less often I'm working with a single individual founder or executive because so many of them have said like this is great. I need more people on my team doing this kind of work. So now at this point, I'm mostly working with the whole team. So yeah, it'd be great to check that out. What I love about 11 and that being a part of this whole ecosystem is that even if we don't work directly together in a coaching relationship, I'm hopeful that the product really helps open up the primary thing that we're working on anyway,
Mm,
which is when decisions feel difficult, when communication feels difficult, when the next action feels difficult, rather than what is the right answer and who's going to give it to me, right? we do the opposite. We go like, why does this feel so hard right now? Like, do you believe that there's someone else out there that would just make this decision and feel confident about it and like move right ahead, even if maybe they're wrong? Well, yeah, of course I do. That's what I'm trying to get. I'm like, okay, so it's possible for this decision to be very easy. So why does it feel so hard to you right now?
Mm.
Right. And so that's what we're trying to enable with the product is to help people have a communication tool in their organization that is not designed for instant answers, instant response, search the answer, have an AI tell me what the answer is supposed to be, right? Like instead of all of that, this is the one that goes like, "Hey, I really want to talk with you about kind of why this is happening or can we figure out what is challenging about this?" And I don't even want you to immediately respond to me. I want you to know that that's what I want the next conversation to be. So we're both really ready to engage in that. So hopefully the product creates, you know, like the wild thing is like I want literally every person in the world to have access to something like that, since it seems like most of our technology is not only on the other side of that fence, but running as quickly as possible toward like, just like feed you all of the answers with a feeding tube as fast as possible. Take the decisions away, just make the frameworks, make the stuff, like let the machines do it. What do we need people for? So hopefully this is a different option.
A different look. Yeah. I mean, I love it. I love it. It's clear as day that you're passionate about this and that this is really what you love and believe in. And it's incredible
Yeah.
to hear you really communicate that with us in the audience. So absolutely a pleasure having you on so far. So walk us through here, Thomas. I would love to know what's working really well for new clients to come in and acquisition. What works best for you right now?
If people get a chance to hear any version of this story,
Yeah.
right? Like if it just gets in front of them, like, hey, what if instead of getting an instant reaction, what if you could save a conversation for later? What if we could create space to get curious about that? Um, that's still in the like 90% of anyone who hears that goes like, oh, yeah,
Mm.
you know, or like, well, that's just not possible. Or like, I'd love that, but like, that's so hard. Or like, like it's this whole spectrum of like, of course, right? There's only like 10%, who are just like, I don't care. We should tell people what to think. Like that sounds like a waste of time. We don't need more feelings around here. Like that exists, but it's a very small amount. Right. So what's working is if people hear that that's an option, there's just this like the shoulders drop. There's just this like just the idea is like this sense of relief of like, oh, that's worth it. Yeah.
Gotcha. So do you even need to use anything like ads, LinkedIn, Facebook, or is most of your, acquisition come organically referral based on that side?
Yeah, I mean, we're super early stage, so we're not even pumping money into that kind of thing yet anyway. But I'm not against those ads. Um, it will just be like if we crank up the growth machine, um, the ad spend will definitely be focused on boosting the real stories. Um, if we're developing ad copy and imagery, it will be highlighting people who are feeling that success and sharing their stories. Um, and that's what we're doing now is the organic, just gathering the stories, having the conversations, highlighting that, letting people share it. So if we invest, it would be in boosting and amplifying that, not trying to like figure out what, you know, tagline
Right.
works best. Even though it's cheesy and ridiculous, but you know, our tagline is like, let's crank your one-on-ones to 11.
It's cheesy, but it works wonders.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, so Thomas, with that in mind, talk to me what the sales process looks like for you. Are you handling things on your own? Do you have a team that you have with you, a sales team, or kind of what does that look like from the outside?
Yeah, we don't have a sales team yet. I do have an amazing team who I couldn't imagine doing this without. That was the biggest thing this time around. I was more focused on like if this works out, we're signing up for 10 to 15 to 20 years. And I want to make sure that it's like the people I want to be hanging out, in the treehouse with, the whole time where it's just as fun building it, as it is at the end. So got a great crew together to do this. We have two things going on right now. Our primary focus is still much more organic, bottom up, kind of like I guess the Yammer or the Slack or the Notion or the Figma, right? Like more prosumer, where it's like we're trying to connect directly with the person, whether that's a manager for manager and direct reports, whether it's the coach for coaches and clients. We're trying to connect directly with them where they sign up, they go pro, it's free. For up to two connections, and then you pay to add more than two connections. So if you're the manager, if you're the coach, you're going pro to invite 10, 15, 20 people into it, but they don't have to pay to start
So,
using it. Um,
gotcha.
so we've been doing that, and then we're just now starting to learn how to do more of an enterprise deal. We're like heading straight to the head of HR or the executive at the company and inviting them to roll this out for the entire team. And that one's gonna, we're gonna be learning that one, and that's much more of that will be a sales process, because we need to help them compare it to their options and understand the investment and why it's a wild level of ROI compared to their costs on turnover and rehiring and retraining, or just carrying dissatisfied, disconnected people for years and years. So we get to do some of that framing of helping them understand like why this is such a small investment for the return.
Absolutely. So, I mean, with that in mind, obviously you have a really good plan kind of set out from what it really sounds like to me. What is there a bottleneck that you could point to for growth, whether that be lead generation, converting those leads into users, delivering, with your current capacity? What would that look like for us?
I mean, today our biggest one is we have to go live in the app stores.
No, wow. Okay.
Right? So like we have like a progressive web app um experience right now. Um so it people can use it. But the number one feedback is this is going to be so much easier whenever it's like an app.
Right.
Um so that needs to happen. We also are in the early phases. Like ultimately, this is going the success of this means that it's right on the edge for people,
Right.
right? So we're gonna have the watch app version, right? So like
Right.
I'm literally walking out of the gym. I've been stewing on something. I can just be like, "Hey, really important uh, question I have for you around like how we're gonna address this next quarter goals because I know we need to hit those, but like we got a gap, and I have an idea of how we can get there, but like let's talk about it, right? And I'm doing that while I'm walking to the car. I'm not getting sucked into Slack and email and like I'm not getting sucked into work. I can just like say the thing and I can literally do it in the shower, right? Like so it'll be there. It'll be in the like CarPlay. or what's that called? I think CarPlay. I don't know.
Power play. Yep, for
Yeah,
Apple.
right. Like on the dashboard in
Yep.
people's cars, so like it can fall out then, on the voice assistants, right? Where I can just like, okay, Google, tell Jay that I need to tell him about what I've seen over the last couple of weeks of his leadership really stepping up, and I want to tell him why that is important to me, right? And it's just
Very cool.
off, right? So that's the bottleneck is just getting it, shipping all that stuff so that it's right on the edge, because we just have this gap. Like I was telling you before, like 90% are like, I get it, I need that, right? And so we're like, here's the browser version,
Yeah.
and like it's hard for that to like
To
get
really
into the flow as easily, right?
everyone on their
Um,
phones nowadays. Yeah, I mean, having
yeah,
the app store is definitely going to provide that use case just so much more for all of your clients. That definitely.
yeah. And the second one is we're gonna ship a very high production intro sequence, um, so that the person you're sharing, like the first person who gets the idea and like goes to grab it and like I really want this,
Yeah,
right? Like they know exactly what this is and why they want it. For the next person who they're inviting to start communicating this way, we need the most potent moment for that person to be able to catch up to that same spot, right? So that they can get it faster before having to go through a couple cycles. And what is this? And like, why don't I just like Slack you a question,
right.
So we need to show that to them in a way that lets them kind of catch up to whoever might have already listened to a couple podcasts like yours, right? And they go check it out and like they don't install it yet, but they're thinking about it, and then they get one or two emails and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I really do need that, right? Like, how do we give the second person in the relationship a chance to kind of catch up to that?
Absolutely, that makes sense. Well, so with that in mind, I mean, what is your vision for as far as your priorities go for the next 6 to 12 months for growing 11 for your coaching side of things? What are you laser focused on over the next year?
Yeah. Is it fair to tell you like the 20 or 30-year one to
I mean,
back into that?
of course, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, because what's driving all of this is like what I really want is a lot more empathy and compassion in the world.
Yeah,
Like if our species does not figure out how to start getting along and wanting to understand why we are so ripped apart and why everything is us versus them. Like if we don't figure that out, I don't think we get to be a part of the next cycle
yeah,
on on this planet. So I want that. But what I learned the hard way um, is that empathy and compassion. Um, I don't believe they can be taught. They can be caught, but not taught. Um, it's really hard to measure. But most importantly, if you push on it, right? Like, I need you to be more compassionate, it crumbles, right? Like, we need there to be more empathy around here. So we're going to start measuring empathy and we're going to, fire the lowest 20% of empathetic leaders, like, here's your EQ test. And if you fail, like, you're out of here. Like, it
yeah.
doesn't work. Um, but what's wild to me is there's this thing called curiosity that you can teach anyone very easily. You can measure it easily, and you can push on it. You can tell people, like, I really need you to increase your level and quality of curiosity
Hmm.
on this team, or there's not a spot for you. Right? You can push on that, and you can respond to it. Right? You'd be like, okay, I'm going to ask like more questions before I just tell someone what to do. Right? It's easy. And the natural, inherent, unavoidable side effect of curiosity is empathy and compassion. It's really hard for me to not have more empathy and compassion for you when I'm leading with curiosity and asking you more and trying to understand you better. It's impossible. Like we can still really disagree, but like, you know, like I have a lot of respect for that person, even though we disagree on this thing. Like I think I'm starting to understand why they, right? Like so that's what's going on. So 20, 30 years, right? The whole point here is can we increase, almost like measuring GDP, like can we increase the quantity and quality of curiosity and as a side effect, increased empathy and compassion. So that's the goal. So the next 6 to 12 months is like we need to just we need to do whatever it takes to put this opportunity in front of people, just so they have a chance to like, oh wait a second, curiosity, that's interesting. Wait, I could just have this thing that like helps facilitate the likelihood that things start with more questions instead of reacted answers. Yeah, I'll try that. Right. And then just see what happens whenever the relationships in their life become more curious and more compassionate.
I absolutely love that. Well, Thomas, I do have one more question for you before we wrap up, and this one's going to
Okay.
be for our listeners here. So I would love for you to give our listeners a piece of advice, something that you can offer them, other founders, entrepreneurs starting a business of their own or in a business right now. What is something that you can offer them before we wrap up today?
Yeah. Uh, this will be so fun. So I believe that advice is the single worst thing that ever happens to an entrepreneur.
Really?
At best, it happens to be useful, good advice that you take and apply and it works out. But now you have no idea how to arrive at that information or good recommendation yourself.
Mm,
At worst, it happens to be really bad advice, like in general, or it happens to be like that was good for them, but this is bad for you, um, and you're latching onto it because you feel like you're drowning in like whatever the struggle is that you want the advice for, and it gets thrown to you, and you just like climb up on it and like take it, and and it doesn't work. So I think advice is the worst thing that ever happens to entrepreneurs. So the one piece of advice that I will give is anytime someone gives you advice, the first thing you say is, "Oh, cool. Can you tell me about what happened whenever you tried that?" And is there swearing on here?
no, you
Okay,
can.
okay, okay. I can keep it clean. I kid you not. At least 50% of the time, the person will start to squirm and they will go like, well, I mean, I haven't like done exactly that myself. I just think that, it's just, you should try it. I just think I read it on a blog and you should try
Right.
it. Right. Or if it's not that, then you hear their story of like, yeah, well, 12 years ago, I was running these email campaigns and like, so we did the da 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 da. Right. And you're like, okay, 12 years. Okay, we'll put that in context, right? Or like last week in your exact same industry in CPG with a brand that is da da da, right? Like, and you're like, oh, okay. Can I talk to some of those people that did that 6 months ago and check on like how they're doing right now and if there's something they would, right? So like when you push back on like, cool, tell me what happened when you tried that piece of advice you're giving me, you're going to get the real value out of it, which is the story of when and how it was implemented and in what context. And that gives you the tools to determine like this is a fit for me, or I don't get that, but I'm going to lean into it. Or like, oh, thank you. Not a fit for us. I'm going to go ask that question 10 more times to see if I can get like a better answer out of the other nine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I love it and I do appreciate that. And I mean it definitely makes sense, right? Don't obviously take everything that you hear, question things a bit. So
Yeah.
absolutely love it. Well, with that, that does wrap up another inspiring episode here of Founders Future. Just want to thank you again, Thomas. I mean, incredible journey so far. Again, our serial entrepreneur here and sharing your insights with us. I mean, I know you're going to continue to do some amazing things. You're so passionate about what you do and have so much intelligence. So truly it was a pleasure and an honor having you on the show today. To our listeners, if you did enjoy this episode, which I know many of you have, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find more resources and insights at closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their growth through trained appointment setters and world-class marketing systems. Until then, keep climbing, and we'll see you on the next one.